If the U.S. wants to change that in a more permanent way, we can make choices to change with whom we trade as well.
Well, as we were having this tariff concern with Donald Trump, Mark Carney was running around the planet talking to the BBC, talking to the CNN. He wasn't talking to any independent media in Canada. He wasn't talking to even to any media in Canada. I guess he feels like he's got them sewn up. Why he feels the need or the necessity to talk to foreign press about a Canadian issue speaks, I think, more to his globalist mindset, to the idea that he believes that there should be no borders, that there should be nothing about Canada that is Canadian. So while Donald Trump was, threatening economic ruin on the country, while Donald Trump was saying to the Liberal government, fix these problems or don't do business with us anymore, Mark Carney was running around acting like he was already Prime Minister of the country, talking for me, putting words in my mouth. I don't agree with your policies, Mr. Carney. I mean, I can't even say MP Carney because he's not even elected to any office anywhere. So they're going to make him the leader of the Liberal Party, a minority government. He then becomes an unelected Prime Minister who doesn't even hold a seat anywhere in the country. The absurdity of that's ridiculous. I mean, that's a coup. That's basically a coup, what we're talking about right there. And now he wants to go on CNN and talk tough and talk brave and all kinds of stuff that, Canadians know better, right? I mean, the one thing that this tariff concern with Donald Trump has laid bare is the fragility of the Canadian economy and how we only have one country to trade with. Let's just listen to some of the things that don't make any sense coming out of the mouth of Mark Carney.
Well, the deficit is entirely caused by imports of Canadian oil. We provide 60% of your imported oil. Your refineries are geared for that oil. And the U.S. runs a trade surplus on all other goods and services. So if the U.S. wants to change that in a more permanent way, we can make choices to change with whom we trade as well.
Well, here's a perfect example of why you shouldn't believe the stories. Person can know their industry well, like say as an accountant, and not be very intelligent. Just because you're smart doesn't mean you're intelligent. Say in the example of Danielle Smith. What Mark Carney just said is the only reason that we give more to the Americans money monetarily is because we give them oil. And we in fact import more of American-made products. So if we were to take oil out of it, they would be giving us more than we give them. And then he says, well, if you want to have make a big deal about it, then we'll just find somebody else to give our oil to. Except here's the flaw in your plan, Mark Carney. You, along with all of the liberal and far left people in Canada, politicians in Canada, killed the pipeline to get the Alberta oil to Nova Scotia. And you killed the pipeline to get the Alberta oil to British Columbia, or the natural gas or whatever product you want to talk about. So I don't know what other country you figure we're going to all of a sudden be able to trade with without building the infrastructure that's required to send that oil. So I did a couple of quick calculations. According to Canada's website, Alberta produced 4.3 million barrels of oil per day in 2023. I'll say that number again, 4.3 million barrels every day. Now, if you think in your mind, well, we'll just send it on a train to British Columbia or to Nova Scotia to cover the production of 4.3 million barrels every day in a train car, those tanker train cars, everybody's seen them. They, after the math, they hold 131,000 liters, and by the time you do the calculations, to cover 4.3 million barrels every day, we would need to send 5,000 of them, approximately, a day. I mean, we're talking about train cars basically backed up like around the globe. They would circle the globe like 5 times by the time you got through a first month. One of the reasons that the pipeline is important is because it can handle the volume, right? Just like the water running through your taps, it can handle the volume. The train would need to slow down for certain regions. It can't be that long, so we would have to send one after the next after the next. The oil would come out faster than we could move it. There would be backlogs so bad it wouldn't even be funny. It would be embarrassing. However, Mark Carney, talking like a tough guy, talking like somebody that's going to somehow all of a sudden be able to correct all of the bad decisions that he's put Canada through for the last 25 years. Somehow thinking that all of a sudden this surplus, because it's not like we have anything else that we give them in excess. We only give them fuel. Now, I know that Pierre Poilievre has been talking about how we need to open up other markets for as long as I've been listening to him. So years. Mark Carney, on the other hand, says that killing the pipelines was the good idea for the carbon tax. Probably because he wants to buy oil that is manufactured in other countries and have it brought into Canada so that he can make money. Either way, there's nothing that he just said that's going to hold true when you're talking about we're going to find new markets. I mean, we can find new markets, but how many years is it going to take us to get those pipelines built? How many years is it going to take us to get the permission of every little solitary premier running through? I mean, New Brunswick and Nova Scotia were ready for it, but Quebec killed it. Now, Quebec, the same province that took $13 billion from Alberta as equalization payments, said, no, we don't want a pipeline running through our province. We don't need the money. We don't need the jobs. That's okay. And this guy talking like, well, if you don't like it, we're going to find a new partner. You're not going to find a new partner. And this guy wants to be the prime minister. Think about that now. He wants to, on the one hand, destroy everything. And then he wants to say, oh, the reason that the economy has collapsed is not because of the green agenda that I have in the back of my head. It's because, Donald Trump. No, man, it's about the decisions that you've made and how this country has no infrastructure to deal with anybody else because of the short-sightedness of the far left.
We are not your supplier of fentanyl. As you know, we supply less than 1%, or at least those are the seizures relative to Mexico. But even that said, what we want to do, what we have to do, is work more closely between our two countries to really stamp this out.
Of course, everybody knows what he means. He means that Donald Trump should do it his way so that he's can be considered working together. When Donald Trump told you what he wanted, you said, no, we're not doing that. That's not working together, right? Then all of a sudden, Donald Trump said, fine, I'm turning the taps off. And you all embarrassed yourselves, crawling on your belly, begging for forgiveness.
And deploy all resources necessary. But the conversation, as you just alluded, it keeps shifting. It shifts to energy. This morning, Canadian banking was brought up for the first time, at least in the public domain. So it's very hard to have these discussions when things are moving so rapidly.
Well, it's funny that the second that Mark Carney became the advisor officially to Justin Trudeau and refused to take the conflict of interests investigations, he had the banking laws changed to suit his mortgage laws changed to suit his company. I don't think that Donald Trump was saying anything beyond the fact that every time when banks try to break into the Canadian market, all of our regulations get in the way, so now we have monopolies.
I would say the mood of the country has moved from one of confusion to a sense of betrayal, and now very much to a sense of resolve.
Well, how do you like that? Me and Mr. Carney agree on something. There was an absolute sense of confusion, then betrayal, and now a sense of resolve from the Canadian people. What he doesn't seem to understand is that it wasn't directed at Donald Trump. It was directed at the liberal and the far left green policies. First, there was a sense of confusion. What do you mean we only have one trading partner? And that's because of the decisions that the far left has made over the last 20 years, killing all of the infrastructure projects that would allow Canada to move one of the most valuable commodities and one of the largest demanded commodities on earth. Then there was a sense of betrayal, how the Liberal Party and the far left did this to the Canadian population so that one or two people could get very wealthy, so that one or two people could have all of the pie and leave none for the rest of us, not even the tray that the pie was made in, while we sit in high density looking for handouts from the food bank and hoping that we can find a way to get through the next season without maybe, living in a tent or freezing to death. And now the sense of resolve that we just want Parliament recalled, so the no confidence vote, so that we can get the liberal and the far left policies out of this country and drill, baby, drill, because we all want to have prosperity over poverty. We are all looking that we can live a comfortable middle class life. And if that means that the policies of the far left have to be removed from our government, then so be it. Let's do that right now. It's not like people want to make things that are dirty or going to pollute. They just want to know that they can earn some money, feed their children, have a decent life, put a roof over their head, pay their bills. You know, all of the things that you take for granted, Mark Carney, the rest of us that are still struggling to get through. So yeah, confusion, betrayal, and now resolution. Absolutely. But not toward Donald Trump. Donald Trump is doing what Donald Trump is doing for the American people. We are in Canada and we are looking around saying, what do you mean I can't sell wine from British Columbia to Manitoba because there's rules against that? What do you mean I have to make a 5,000 car long train car just to get the 1 day's production of oil out of the province? What do you mean by that? And why is it that something about that hasn't been done beforehand? Because I know there are plenty of people in this world who would just like a decent job, not have to worry about any of the stuff coming out of Ottawa. They just want to know that they can get up, go to work, come home, and everything is taken care of. They don't want to go through all that hard work and own nothing, Mr. Carney. You can forget that logic or lack thereof. They want to know that when they put in a hard day's work, that they've done what's best for themselves, their family, and their community. And they don't want people like you sticking your nose in their affairs. They don't want people like you sticking your nose and looking down your nose at them and telling them how they should or shouldn't live. They just want to get up, go to work, come home, have a laugh, have a barbecue, repeat. Your agenda has brought Canada to the brink of economic destruction. Your agenda has brought Canada to the brink of economic ruin, and Donald Trump has done us a favor. He has exposed how the far left policies will leave all of us vulnerable to any number of things that happen when poverty kicks in. And you're sitting there on CNN talking like you're going to trade with somebody else. You're not even an elected official. So you can just wait your turn. While I believe Canadians would just prefer to have Parliament recalled and a no confidence vote put forward. And you guys can work out your mess later. Not on our time, because we have things we need to concern ourselves with, like starting the economy in a manner that will reflect the enormous amounts of money that are going to be generated by the United States, for example. All right, I'm going to wrap here. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next time.